And so the area that I grew up in and was born was pretty rough, pretty rough. You know, you had to work hard, improvise a lot to make ends meet. The majority of my neighborhood was mainly Hispanic, Spanish speaking. Gun violence, physical violence was not an uncommon thing where I grew up. I remember this one time I just stepped out of my door, sat on the sidewalk just to enjoy the day, and out of nowhere, 4 police cars just rushed exactly where I was at. And I remember as soon as I put my hands up, 2 officers approached me, put my hands behind my back, cuffed me, and then next thing you know, just out of a wrestling move, literally picked me up and just slammed me on the police vehicle. I must have been like 15, 16 years old, so I was scared. It brought a lot of anger and frustration, and I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know how to get that anger and frustration out, and started feeling like I needed to defend myself at all times from anybody that did not look like me. And that was an ugly feeling. I was basically told, you know, we have your back, and only we're going to have your back, nobody else. So stick with us, stick with your own kind. I turned to partying, alcohol, and drugs because I didn't know what to do with all that. And I remember one time coming in, it was 4 in the morning. I had been out with friends, drinking and partying, and I remember stumbling in the door, and I heard this whisper, and I'm like, who's up at this time? And I got closer and closer, and I remember hearing this voice, and they said, no matter what he's doing, no matter where he's at, just please take care of him. I didn't make any other noise. I just remember hearing that, and I was like, wow, even now that I don't deserve somebody taking their time, let alone at 4 in the morning, asking God to protect me. That affected me, that prayer that my mom had said for me. I was like, I have to do something drastic to change my life. And the first thing I did was move out of the neighborhood that I lived in. That was very drastic for me because that's all I knew. That's where I was comfortable at. And I'm thankful that my parents were willing to make that move and understand, you know, that this was one of the things that was going to help me change. A young Mexican-American man growing up in the ghetto, your chances of survival, your chances of becoming something are slim. But again, because of prayer, because of people who never stopped believing what God had in store for me, it changed that dramatically. There's people that live in an environment and they think there's no way out. Or, like Pastor has said, this is who I am and this is who I'm going to continue to be. And I was one of those people. If you would have told me years ago that I would have ended up in Eastern Kentucky, I would have been like, no, you're crazy. There's no way, you know. But it was definitely what God had in store for me because I needed, again, to make a drastic move and remove myself and change my environment completely, not just a little bit like I thought I needed. It needed to be something drastic. And I mean, coming from LA to this part of the country, it's a pretty drastic change, you know. You know, even when I started coming to Connection, I'm like, if people only knew who I was, they would probably reject me. I'll just sit back in the corner and be quiet. And I'll come to church because that's not what I know what I need. But I'll just sit back and be quiet. And then I started coming to groups, and I did the Freedom group, because it really takes you back and to your past and things that maybe you need to speak of. And that's when I started talking about this part of my life where I let myself be blinded by skin color, you know. But then through Freedom, I was like, it happened, unfortunately. You did things that you shouldn't have done. And now you're forgiven completely. There's nobody that can ever say anything to you because you brought it to God. You left it there. You didn't pick it back up. God's not going to let me feel shame in front of anybody. I can honestly say that I feel that I can go back to where I lived and grew up and hold my head high and let people know this is who I was. This is what I did to change. This is what God did for me. And this is what prayer did for me. And now, here I am. If you want the same thing, let's have a talk.